you're gonna look great. But if you wanna stay in shape, well, you better hit the ymWits.
That's right, man. Tell 'em.
Welcome to the ymWits podcast. I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, a.k.a. Chef Sonic.
And I'm Tony Marinucci, a.k.a. Tips with Tony, a registered dietitian.
And we are the ymWits, the podcast that wants to make you feel like you're in our living room, which is why you can hear all the fire trucks and sirens and cars and everything for some reason.
Well, once we can afford to get soundproofing, we'll do that, but it's very, very difficult in the city.
Sorry, so you experienced this with us.
How much would one of those walls cost, like the soundproof walls to put up?
You know, soundproofing is... It's an incredibly tremendous ordeal, and you can't do it in a you know, unless it's a space that's built out for it. You have to go into the walls and do it, and it still never works 100%. So it's really a it's a big deal.
It just adds to our authenticity. That's all.
It's the ambience.
Yes, exactly. Ambience. Exactly. So I'll give you a little. I don't know. So typically, some inside baseball, if you don't know already, which is generally pretty clear, we record our interview. When we do interviews, we record the interviews, and then we do like the intro and the outro. We just finished this interview. It gets a little bit, I don't want to say heated, but definitely somewhat, I don't want to say combative, but it's kind of timely because a couple weeks ago we did an interview and Justin was like, we're too soft on people. We need to be more aggressive. And I'm like, I don't want to be more aggressive. I don't want to be aggressive with people.
Not in a mean way.
But we want to call people out on stuff. So I think in this case, you can listen for yourselves and see what you think. We're discussing something. We're discussing algae with somebody who obviously is selling it, so there's going to be that part of it, and it very well could be, the greatest thing, for mankind. But we like to make sure that we stick with the science and that we know what the science says. And so just keep that in mind while you're listening to the interview. There are a lot of claims, and some may be valid, some may not be, but we just don't know. And so just keep in mind, it's a little bit combative, a little bit heated, but we tried to do, what we're supposed to do and not let, major claims go unchecked or unquestioned. That's the best I could do.
Yep,
So without further ado,
here's our interview with Catharine Arnston. Hey everyone, we are here with Catharine Arnston. Hey Catharine, how's everything?
I am jolly good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. So are you located in Boston?
I am. Yes, I'm actually Canadian, but I've hung out here in Boston for the last 25 or 30 years, although the winter may direct me somewhere warmer one of these days. But I am still here, yep, and spring is arriving, apparently, so they say.
So they say.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Catharine is the founder, CEO, and also Chief Scientific. What was the title you used?
Chief Scientific Officer. Yeah.
Chief Scientific Officer. Yeah.
Officer. So I can geek out on people on science, or
nice.
with scientists, or you can ask me questions and I'll give you some science.
Yes, yeah. and of course the company is ymWits, and they specialize in algae
tablets. You got it.
Algae tablets, which is becoming very hot right now. But before we jump into that, we always ask about your background and your background in fitness, because this is a fitness podcast. Sure. So, Catharine, what is your background in fitness? Did you play any sports, or did you get into it later? Let us know.
I've always enjoyed, I'm Canadian, so, you got to like the outdoors if you're in Canada. Mm-hmm. So I've always been a skier. I taught skiing. I was a ski patrol all through high school. All my holidays were skiing. So I was really more of an outdoor skiing, hiking type of person. And now I've been living in the urban community. So I go to, fitness classes. I love yoga. I haven't really... I used to run, but not so much now. So I do, a combination of HIIT, high intensity yoga. I actually love Zumba. So anything that moves my body. I try to do something every day, whether it's a 3-mile walk or getting a class. So it's absolutely critical to eat well, sleep well, and fit well.
Sure. Did you ever, on one of your ski vacations, take a trip over to Tremblant?
Well, Tremblant is well known for its cold. So I know I used to go over to St. Anne, which is in Quebec City, or we would ski in Vermont, or Snowmass out in Colorado, Aspen. And then when I got older, then I got to go to Austria and northern Italy and skied there. So sadly, I don't really ski very much anymore, but I had a really good run, pardon the pun.
Nice. So tell us about your professional background. You founded this company, but you're a scientist. So tell us about that.
I fell into becoming a scientist. Okay. I think I've probably always been a closet scientist. I like to figure out how things work. So I don't think anyone ever plans to be in the algae industry. I just backed into it. I have an MBA and I was doing international economic development. Yes, a big bore, but it was interesting. It took me around the world a little bit. And then my younger sister up in Canada developed breast cancer, and she's fine now. 10 years later, she's still 10 years cancer free. And her oncologist told her that she should change her diet to an alkaline diet because it would help her heal. Now, they didn't tell her what it was or what it would do. So she, called me instantly, big sis, and I said, don't worry, I'll find out, and blah, blah, blah. And basically, so I just Googled. Now, this was 10 years ago, and nobody was talking about plant-based nutrition then. So I Googled it and found out it was basically plant-based nutrition because of all the phytonutrients and the chlorophyll, which is very cleansing to your immune system. And, she was going to go through chemo, so she needed to build her immune system. So I read through a list of foods that she should eat and discard. She took my advice. She went through chemo, completely healed. Then I went on to read about plant-based nutrition, was stunned by what I was reading. It's all science-based. I thought, my God, someone needs to tell the world. So why don't I do that? So but I knew nothing about nutrition. So this is just to go to show anybody who's listening, at any time you can reinvent yourself. I don't want to say how old I was, but let me tell you, I was no spring chicken. So I gave up my career of 25 years, so you can figure out the math. And I went to just got a nutrition counseling certificate at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York City. And that was just give me something because I didn't have time to get a registered dietitian, which is another 4 years. And then I taught nutrition for a year. I gave free workshops trying to get people to eat more greens because I knew how powerful they were from a nutritional health perspective. And I learned that everybody knows they need to eat healthier, but most people either don't like eating greens or it's too much work. It's heavy, it's messy, and even smoothies, which are quite popular now, are still kind of messy. So I thought, well, that's not going to move the needle. I need to find something that's fast, easy, healthy, green, but doesn't taste green. And so I just started researching again, and I stumbled across algae in tablet form. Turned out it has the most chlorophyll in the world, 1,000 times more than any other greens, 200 times more than spinach, and 25 times more than wheatgrass. So you're getting all that rich chlorophyll. It's the most nutrient-dense food in the world. NASA says it has 1,000 times more nutrients than any other fruit or vegetable. It has the highest concentration of protein in the world, 3 times the amount of protein as steak on a per weight basis, and the Germans won a Nobel Prize for discovering that. And if you swallow it, you don't taste any green. Bingo. So that was 8 years ago. I thought, that's it. I am devoting the rest of my life to algae. I sort of, sacrificial lamb. Here I am, algae. I'm yours. Take me. Because I started reading about the science of algae. It's the most studied food in the world, both from a fitness perspective as well as a nutritional perspective. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry in Asia where it's been grown and used for over 50 years. And it's been sold in America for 50 years, but it's languished. And I figured out why. Like virtually nobody knows about it. In the 60s, there was a little blip of interest, and it was mostly because of the anti-war. It was mostly powder. But basically,
I think in the 60s, it was because they thought it was something else.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, that's CBT oil. That's finally coming out. But it's a plant, so it's like broccoli or kale. So there's no patents, so the biotech companies weren't going to go pursue it. All the market is in Asia, and all of it is pretty much grown in Asia. So they weren't packaging it in a way that was friendly or would explain what it did. So that ruled out the Asian companies. And the big food companies, they're interested in processed foods full of sugar and stuff, and they don't open up new markets. And so and nobody was educating anyone about out what this did. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to address all those 3 issues. It's taken me 8 years, but we're finally making headway. And I was on Shark Tank last year, and we're working with some really high quality scientists like Dr. D'Agostino, who's very big in the keto community. And anyway, so we're forging ahead and getting the word out to athletes. We're very involved with the Olympic athletes. I sent some of my team to the Winter Sochi Olympics a couple of years ago, and we're working with professional cyclists. We fuel 5 NHL teams because of we're going to talk about what the different algae do. So yeah, sports and sports performance is really big for us, and the athletes love it because there's no sugar, caffeine, or chemicals, and they get steady energy from ymWits, which is spirulina, and the product we call Recovery Bits, which is chlorella. It pulls out toxins, including lactic acid, so your muscles aren't sore the next day, and you recover much faster, all naturally, not a single stimulant in this stuff, period. So it's pretty rockin' cool.
So, one thing, and we'll certainly get into the the research and all that good stuff. So first, after we destroy the Earth, right, for whatever means, we're going to need this stuff when we move to Mars or whatever, right?
Right.
I think Ryan was telling me that.
You're gonna butcher it. So there's a good. The author Andy Weir? He wrote The Martian. And recently, his most recent book was called Artemis, and it's basically about the first moon colony. And basically, you have different classes of people. So obviously, the rich tourists get to eat regular food, but since food is so expensive, like the regular working class people eat what's called gunk, which is basically kind of a processed, if I get it correct, like kind of a processed algae paste that they then season up and do different things with. But basically, algae is essential to their diet, I guess, because of the nutritiousness of it. Yeah.
Well, there are 2 foods in the entire universe that you could live on forever. Only 2. The first one is mother's breast milk. So that kind of rules out just about 99.9% of us, because you're not going to find any woman or baby who's going to share that. And the other one is algae. The nutrient profile, particularly of spirulina, but either one of them, spirulina or chlor, is so similar to breast milk that it's mind-boggling. And, it came from Mother Nature. So you can consider this Mother Nature's perfect food because it gives you everything from protein, essential fatty acids, all your electrolytes, all the minerals, all the B vitamins, everything that you need to survive. It is unbelievable. And I would like to point out that algae, particularly spirulina, was the very first living form of life on Earth almost 4 billion years ago. Before algae, Earth was just water and gas. And for whatever reason, spirulina started growing, who knows why, the act of God. And it releases so much oxygen that after about 1 billion years later, other life forms, and the next one was chlorella, which is a plant, started growing, and then that led to other forms, and then now we have life. So I tell people that, algae isn't new, it's just new to you. It was here way earlier than we were, and there's something magical about this stuff because, it'll help you stay healthy. It will extend your life. You will feel better. You will look younger. Everything will work better, including everything from top to bottom. And we can go there if you want to.
Yeah, why don't we go there? Why don't we because I'm just, when it comes to being healthy, I think you can't say that one thing is a cure-all or fix-all. It's a whole lifestyle factor, but
yes,
just like there's benefits to broccoli, there's benefits to apples, there's benefits to different proteins, there's different benefits. So what are the benefits of incorporating algae in the diet?
Yeah, well, we can cover some of those. So if you're talking about protein, first of all, it's plant protein. So it doesn't have any of the downsides of animal protein, which is it's sustainable. It's the most eco-friendly, sustainable crop. But for your body, first of all, there's 18 of the 22 amino acids. So it's a complete protein. That's number one. All the protein in the algae is already in amino acid form. If you eat, and I'm not against animal protein. I occasionally have a little bit of grass-fed beef myself, but I'm just telling you that animal protein, your body can take up to 3 days to break it down into amino acids before it can be absorbed. And if you don't have all the factors and cofactors, you all very often end up only absorbing about 10 or 15% of it in the amino acid form. But the algae is already in amino acids. So there's no work required by your body to get access to the aminos. And so they could, the other thing is spirulina technically is a bacteria. It does not have a cellulose wall. So it's absorbed into your bloodstream instantly if you chew it, like I do, or within 5 or 10 minutes. So that's why the athletes love it so much, because they get the energy from the aminos. And of course, it also has all the B vitamins. B vitamins convert glucose into energy. So they get all this steady energy without any stomach distress, because it gets instantly absorbed and never causes any diarrhea or cramping like you would from a lot of the gels and the bars that are used that are loaded with sugar and chemicals. So we've got the protein. It's easily absorbed. It's 99% bioavailable, which is quite unlike most animal protein or soy, which are much smaller percentages. It has all those B vitamins. It has the highest concentration of iron in the world, both of them, chlorella and spirulina. Iron is what carries oxygen in your blood. So that's why when someone's anemic, they're very fatigued, because they just don't have enough oxygen to facilitate mental thinking, physical activity. And, this is a big deal for cyclists. They want to be sure they've got a lot of oxygen in their blood, because that directly affects performance. It also has the algae, particularly chlorella, has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. Chlorophyll has always been referred to as a cleansing pigment. And when people say, well, what exactly does that mean when it's cleansing? So your cell walls are fat, and they need healthy fats to stay healthy. And if you don't have healthy fats in your diet or healthy cells, nutrients can't get in and toxins can't get out. And chlorophyll is one of the fat-based antioxidants. Almost everything else is water-based. So it heals your cell wall. So it improves performance because you can get access to all the nutrients that you need and gets rid of all those toxins which affect. And if the toxins build up, then you start having damaged RNA and DNA, which leads to dysfunctional cells and dysfunctional ATP. So that kills your energy. The spirulina, which we call energy bits because it gives you energy, it stimulates nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is important for athletes because what that does is it's what's called a vasodilator. So your blood vessels will relax because they're a smooth muscle, and that effectively opens up your blood vessels. So this allows your blood to flow better and smoother, and that brings more oxygen and nutrients to your muscles and to your brain. So again, you get that steady energy. Both algae have some omega-3 in it, but the energy bits is has the higher one, particularly because it has the added essential fatty acid called GLA, which is gamma-linolenic acid. The only place that has more GLA than spirulina is mother's breast milk. And the reason why there's so much of it in breast milk is because it facilitates brain health and brain development, and the baby's brain doubles or triples in size within the first year or two after birth. But we need a healthy brain at all times. That's why so many people take fish oil. But the algae is a replacement for your fish oil. And by the way, there's the ocean is at risk because they're overfishing for all the fish oil, number one. And number two, they've done tests that show that almost all fish oils go rancid within 30 days or 60 days of being packaged. So here people are taking fish oil to reduce inflammation, and it's causing, the opposite. So, I tell people, hey, the fish don't make omega-3. They consolidate it. Where do you think they get it from? They get it from algae. So go directly to the source. It's vegan. It never goes rancid. And it's safer because we grow our algae in fresh water tanks. It's not grown in the ocean. So you're much safer getting your omega needs met from algae. So those are just a couple of the things about the nutrient side that make it the perfect food. It gives you the essential fatty acids you need. It gives you the vitamins that you need. It gives you I didn't mention it's loaded with magnesium, potassium, I don't have the nutrition chart in front of me. And, your body, one of the shortages people have a lot is of magnesium, and magnesium facilitates, I think, something like 300 or maybe it's even 3,000 bodily, functions. And the great thing about algae is that all these nutrients, they're not coming from a vitamin, they're coming from food. And food is perfect because it comes from nature, and so everything works synergistically. And so the minerals facilitate the absorption of the protein, which facilitates the absorption of something else. They all work. They play well in the sandbox. When you are taking vitamins, those are all extracts, and you never get all the factors and cofactors. And so that's why it's a big joke for people in the supplements industry. Everybody knows your body only absorbs about 5 or 10% of those supplements. So they're almost a waste of money. And you can replace all of your supplements, with the exception maybe of D3 and maybe vitamin C. You can replace all of them with algae. You take algae every day, you don't need anything. You don't need a fish oil. You don't need a CoQ10. You don't need a B. You don't need a C. You don't need calcium, magnesium, none of that. So it all comes from the algae.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to begin. Well, I guess I know that you said that you're a scientist and you're doing these studies, but I haven't read everything that you're kind of saying. I haven't read enough studies to kind of back that up. I know that it can be an alternative for somebody who is a vegan or vegetarian that doesn't consume fish in their diet. Food, getting the omega-3s and the branched chain amino acids. No one's really deficient in those unless you're like a highly competitive athlete. You don't really need to supplement with about 3 of them. So I'm just wondering where you're getting your research from.
Well, like I said at the beginning, there's 100,000 studies on different aspects of algae and what it does either for performance, whether it's oxygen uptake or improved performance. They're all in the, not all of them, but most of them are available in the NIH library. There's just too many. There's like when you're talking 100,000, we're not talking 5 or 10 or 15 or 20. 100,000 is a big number. Like I said, it's the most studied food in the world. So it doesn't matter what you're looking for. There's a study available on it. So we're too small to do our own research, but we are starting to do some. But it's just getting started. So we rely on other scientists, and it doesn't matter whether people are, one study shows that spirulina has what's called anti-angiogenesis properties, which means it stops the growth of blood vessels to tumors and cancers. So we were contacted by a cancer association, and they said, "Did you know your spirulina stops cancer?" "No, we didn't know that." "Oh, thank you." And then they sent us the science paper. So there's no benefit to me or my company to reference anything that's not backed up by science. I would lose complete credibility, and so would the company. So I'm not telling you anything. You have to remember, I've spent 8 years, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on algae. So of course you would never have as much knowledge about this as I do. So I'm here to what I try to do is I go through as many studies as I can, because I also run the company, so I can't do the science all the time. I try to go through as many studies as I can and pull together or summarize them in terms that people will understand. And then I try to provide the link to the original study, so if somebody wants to see if I'm telling the truth, then they can see the study for themselves. So most of everything I've told you is backed up by science. So I have no reason to present myself or the company or algae in any way other than a truthful fashion, because why would I do any differently?
No, it's a fair point. I think I guess one of the issues sometimes that we find in health, fitness, nutrition is like kind of everything has a study to back it up, and everything that contradicts everything that has a study has a study to back it up. So when it comes to algae, are there any, obviously there are kind of different levels of studies. So are there any kind of systematic reviews or even kind of meta-analysis, based on the effectiveness of it that you can reference to? Those tend to, obviously when we're looking at science and what's kind of really based in hard science, we look at those as kind of the strongest studies that we're going to find. And so are there maybe those that we can kind of reference or look at to kind of look at some of these benefits? Because it sounds great, and I'm sure there's a lot there, but I think that's the area we kind of fall into with any kind of product, is that it's really easy to say, oh, it's backed by science, but then it's really like seeing what's there and how strong is the science.
Yeah. Well, everybody has their particular interests. And so unfortunately, I don't have the time to go through and find what you particularly are interested in. But I'm happy to send you 5 pages that list probably 100 pages worth of links to different studies, and you can look and find whatever you want. There isn't a single study that contradicts one another. That's what's so amazing. Everything when I started the company, I was by myself for the first 4 years. And quite honestly, I spent 2 years of my time before I even started really selling anything, going through all the science, because I thought, I can't believe this is true. How can this possibly be true? How can this something so amazing with so many nutrients and so many studies, how can this be around and nobody knows about it? And so, I've been called snake oil salesman. I've been challenged. And you know what? I just kept going because I read for myself through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies, and I just knew that eventually word will get out about this product. And I've sacrificed everything, to be perfectly honest, to continue to educate people about algae and give people as much information as I can. I didn't create algae. Mother Nature created algae. What I have done is taken the research that's available about it and tried to make it easy for people to access and to understand. And I make sure I've gone the distance to be sure our product is the safest, cleanest source of it, because there's a lot of garbage out there. And I've packaged it in a way that's non-threatening and makes everybody feel comfortable that it's something for them. That's what we've done. But I did not create algae. So I'm not here to defend algae because it's mine. It's not mine. It belongs to the world. So I'm just here to be the spokesperson.
So take us through your process. How does something go from being grown to, in the packet, in my hand, ready to take before a workout? Can you take us through the process of how you guys do it? And then I guess with that in mind, maybe how it is different from other manufacturers and what makes it kind of safer and more efficient than other manufacturers.
Well, I think because they are grown differently, I'm going to also clarify for your listeners what the 2 main algae are and when you would use them, and then because that also affects why and how they're grown. So, like I said, there's 2 basic algae. One is spirulina, and the other one is chlorella. Spirulina is technically a bacteria, and that's why it gets absorbed so quickly. Both of them are grown in fresh water, so not grown in the ocean. They're grown, and this is also where you want to be very careful. A lot of companies don't grow them as cleanly as we do. We use triple filtered spring water, so it's as clean as you're going to ever get. And the tanks are not some little thing in your backyard like a swimming pool. These are about the size, in some cases, of a football field. So this is an industry, not a hobby. It's almost as big as the beef industry is here. That's how big this is. A crop, an agricultural crop. So they're grown in freshwater tanks. Spirulina is grown in long, narrow tanks because it grows in a spiral. So it starts in one end and it grows toward the other. And chlorella is grown in round tanks because it blooms out in an equidistant format. So they both take about a month to grow. They start in little test tubes and then they move them out into the water tanks. And then they're pulled together, so they almost sort of look like seaweed. And then they're you have to be careful where it's grown in fresh water. And then we air dry them. Now, what's different about us, and again from other companies, is that we're not a volume supplier. We pride ourselves on having the highest quality. And most other companies are volume suppliers. So you go to Target or, Trader Joe's, and you're going to find much cheaper algae. But that's because they don't use the highest quality strains like we do that have the higher protein and nutrients. They use high heat to dry it. And high heat kills the enzyme, so it's no longer a raw food, and it alters the nutritional value. So we shoot ours into the air, not using high heat, so that it's still a it's still a raw food, and then it's packed into these little tiny tablets. You just press the water out of it into this tablet form, and then we put them into UV protected aluminum and foil bags. There's a couple of other steps that other companies don't use. They usually put them in, gel caps, which might not be vegan, or they could be used. Who knows what the ingredients are. And they don't use sunlight UV protected containers, because when you don't have UV protected containers, light can penetrate and pull the chlorophyll out, which that deteriorates some of the quality. Now there's an extra step that you have to use with chlorella, and chlorella is the one that builds your immune system, pulls out toxins of any kind, lead, mercury. We call ours recovery bits because you recover your health. The athletes use it because it pulls out lactic acid.
Hold on. I want to. You mentioned that before, but as the ymWits, we try to really stay close to the science, and Ryan might be able to explain it better. But as far as I know, lactic acid in the muscles doesn't exist. It's not. It's sort of a misnomer that lactic acid gets into your muscles when it gets tight. When you get tired, I think it's something totally different that Ryan will explain.
Lactic acid exists, so that don't throw your listeners off on that.
It exists, but I think the science it's been kind of one of these myths for a really long time, based on a study in the 30s that it's kind of a negative thing, and lactic acid or lactate does occur in the muscles during exercise, but it's kind of been shown that it's released quickly by itself, and it's actually not a negative thing. Like, it's not the cause of soreness, or it's not the that's kind of in the myth that when you feel the burn or the soreness after that, it's lactic acid. It really isn't. So I guess the question is, are there actually studies that show its effectiveness on lactic acid? And if so, that kind of almost perpetuates the myth, because it's lactic acid doesn't stay in the muscles. It's actually released. A good deal is kind of is recycled or turned into glycogen. So it's not really a negative thing.
Right.
Would you agree with that, or is that
it too much is a negative thing. You just talk to any hockey player, and they'll tell you when they've got they're doing fast spurts on the ice, and they've got a buildup of lactic acid. And there's a lot of, and I don't have a science background. I'm chief scientific officer, but it's because I'm the only person doing the science here, and I read through documents, and I'll be the first to admit I don't know everything, and I have read some articles about it. There's another term for it. It's not the lactic acid. It's delayed.
There's DOMS. There's DOMS, which is a legitimate thing. So I think maybe that if it speaks to that, that's one thing. So the only thing where we talk about, I think this has been a thing for us since we've had the podcast, is lactic acid has always been an issue as far as like this something that's been perpetuated throughout for a very long time. And so I guess if it reduces DOMS, that's a whole different thing than if it actually reduces, because to determine if it reduced the lactic acid, you actually have to kind of do a kind of a cell biopsy and check, to see how much lactate or lactic acid is in the muscles before, exercise, then take the algae and then check it after. And, again, as far as the science is right now, it's pretty clear that that lactate or lactic acid isn't the thing causing the pain. So maybe it's a kind of just a difference in clarifying where what the claim is. Does it stop DOMS or does it stop lactic acid?
Yes. Well, it probably stops DOMS, but you see, that's part of the problem when you're speaking to the general audiences. You have to use terms that they are familiar with. So most people, you're right. It's perpetuating a knowledge that's not exactly perfect, because we don't have a replacement yet to explain exactly what's happening. So when I say it pulls out lactic acid, because that helps people understand, because that's what their school of thought is of why they have sore muscles. The studies have shown that there's a faster recovery, that the muscles aren't sore. And so that's what the algae does, and the best way we're explaining it to people is that it's pulling out lactic acid. But there is one other thing that has nothing to do with the muscles, but it does have to do with lactic acid. And when you build up lactic acid, the pH of your blood changes. Your pH of your blood has to be 7.3, or you would die. And when you have too much lactic acid when you're any kind of exercise or just sitting, you're always going to have lactic acid, created. And so the negative ion charge around the hemoglobin gets stripped off if there's too much. So that causes the hemoglobins to clump together so they can no longer carry the iron and the oxygen. So what the body does automatically is it pulls out minerals from your bones to neutralize the lactic acid, and that wears down your immune system. But what the algae does, because it's so alkaline, it restores that hemoglobin back to its regular shape, so now it can carry the iron, and it's no longer clumped, because when it's clumped, it can't get into the tiny capillaries. So it again restores sort of the optimal performance. But it does. There's research and there's also anecdotal. That's why we have 5 NHL teams using the product, because they have a much faster recovery. We're starting to work with the Major League Baseball, and we work with their nutritionists and their trainers. And they don't tell us everything that they're doing, because it's this is a competitive world, and so. But they do use both products, because the one gives them energy and the other one helps their athletes not have sore muscles the next day and helps them speed up the recovery. There's still so much yet to learn about algae, so it's not like it's a closed book and we're done. People are just now learning about the strength of the keto diet, and the knowledge about keto diets have been around for 50 or 60 years, but it's just now starting to be, polished, I guess you would say. And the same thing with algae. There's so much yet to know, and I don't know it all, and I'll never know it all. But I do like to share what I do know. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I have a lot more than most people have when it comes to algae, because nobody else has spent as much time as I have going through the materials.
So you mentioned earlier that it's something popular in the East, and I guess while it's kind of there are definitely a lot of places selling it, and it's getting more popular in the West. Why hasn't it taken hold in the West?
Well, I thought I covered that earlier. I explained that there's no patent on algae because it's a crop, so it's no interest by the biotech companies. The industry, most of the 99% of the algae is grown in Asia, and that's where it's been used. So the packaging is Asian. It looks like it could have dried worms in it. So it's never been marketed properly, and the quality has been questionable. There's been so much of it coming out of China, and with no knowledge and no explanation and no local branding or anyone going through the science to tell people what it does. Like it's a big black hole. What is this stuff? So nobody's ever guaranteed the quality. No one's ever explained what it does, and no one's made it available or educated. I've spent 8 years going through materials, creating materials. It's a huge investment of time and money to educate people about something. Trust me. But I did want to go. We finished before I was finished about the growing techniques, and because there's a very important one I want to draw your attention to with chlorella. This is the one I was saying pulls out toxins. And one of the ways it can pull out toxins is because it has the hardest cellular wall in the plant kingdom. So hard that your body cannot absorb the nutrients unless it's cracked at production. So about 50 years ago, the granddaddy of chlorella, a company called Sun Chlorella, they patented a technique to tumble the chlorella in glass with glass beads so that so that it could crack the it's a single cell organism, blah blah blah, and that's the technique that almost everybody uses. The problem is there was always worry that the glass would heat up and lead from the glass would leak into the chlorella, and the company kept denying that that wasn't happening. About 10 years ago, just about when I was starting the company, the state of California tested their chlorella and found that they did have excessive amounts of lead in the chlorella, and told them that they could either stop selling or put a warning on their packaging that their product contains a substance known by state of California to cause birth defects and brain disorders. So that's what they did. But the problem is everybody pretty much uses their technique. So pretty much all chlorella that you're buying has lead in it. Now, I learned about this when I started the company, and because I'm building a company based on integrity and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, that's not going to work for us. We've got to find some other way to crack the chlorella. And we did. We found a more modern technique. It's more expensive. And we passed the chlorella through a sound chamber. And effectively, it's the vibrations, the sound vibrations that crack the chlorella. So there's no heat and no lead. And we have a third-party lab here in the U.S. that tests all of our algae, every batch that comes over. And we make those lab tests available to our doctors who work with us, because we don't sell through regular retail. We only sell through clinics and chiropractors and homeopaths and anybody who's involved with the health and wellness community. And they have to see that they need guarantees that there are no toxins or metals or whatever. And so we send them the lab tests. And so that's why we are the only algae company endorsed by doctors and nutritionists, because our algae is so clean and so nutrient dense. So that's because and I just use that example so that you and your listeners can understand the kind of lengths that we will go to make sure that we have a high quality product. But it's very important that you find out how your algae supplier cracks their chlorella. Spirulina does not need to be cracked because it does not have a cellular wall.
Right. Is there a symbol that people should be looking for on the bottles of the supplement?
Yeah. That would be a really great thing for someone to do. And I think as the industry starts to take off, as it all signs look like it's going to, perhaps that's something that some algae association can do. It's too much. I would not take that on. I've already taken on enough as it is. So someone else is going to have to move that one forward. But yeah, that'd be a great suggestion.
So I have one more question. How much does a bottle or if you have different size, how much does it cost?
Yeah, so we sell it on nbsp.com, a large bag of 1,000 tablets, and normally a bag is $120. And if we recommend 30 tablets as a single serving, if you can use less and get the same amount of energy, knock yourself out and take less. That being the case, a bag would last you a month. And as I mentioned before, it's a replacement for your vitamins. It's a replacement for, protein bars. It's a replacement for greens because it's got so much chlorophyll in it. And we usually have a 20% discount code that we offer people, so we can give your listeners a 20% off with a ymWits, so that they can also get 20% off, and it would last forever. And that would bring it down to $98, $96. So that's our price. Then we also, as I mentioned, sell through doctors and nutritionists, and they generally sell single servings. And the single servings have 30 tablets in them, and they sell for $4 at retail. And you can find, if you go to our website and click the button at the top that says Find a Retailer, you'll find, we've hundreds of them nation. We hope to have many more soon, but we're small, so we're growing. But those are the two sizes that we sell them in. The other thing I'll mention is in the bag, we include a really cute round tin. It's empty, but the idea is that you can fill it up with you get about 75 tablets, so it's like 2.5 servings. So every day, fill up your tin, tuck it in your handbag or your pocket, your gym bag, and that way you'll always have some algae for whatever purpose, whether you're stuck in traffic and you're hungry, or you're about to work out and you want to take your bits. So and it also saves the environment because it's reusable. So people love the tins, love the tins.
Now, when you take it, are you supposed to drink it with a certain amount of water? Is it better on an empty stomach?
Yeah. You can take it anyway. I chew mine. Most people actually like the chlorella, and we've discovered that the chlorella, when you chew it with macadamia nuts particularly, but maybe also cashew nuts, it tastes unbelievable, like seriously crazy good. The spirulina, not everybody likes that flavor. It's these are hardcore green flavors. There's no sugar or anything else in there. But so you can chew them if you want or swallow them. We do generally recommend water. And also there's a lot of protein in them. So you get 5 grams of protein per serving. So and protein requires water to process. So, drinking them is good. They're great on an empty stomach. So a lot of people work out in a fasted state and no stomach distress at all, no burping, no after anything. But you can also take them with, if you want to eat less at dinner, take them, 10 or 15 minutes before dinner or lunch or anything. Some people have them for lunch because a single serving will satisfy your hunger for about about 2 hours. That's 30 tablets. And generally, you could take either of them at any time of the day, but obviously if you want energy, morning and afternoon is good to take the energy bits. That's the spirulina. And your body goes through a natural detox cycle anyways. So we always, and one of the toxins it pulls out is alcohol. So we generally recommend people get into the habit of taking the chlorella, which we call recovery bits, at night, so that it will facilitate your detox. And if you had any wine or something for dinner, it will pull it out so you don't have a hangover the next morning. And also, chlorella has the highest concentration of tryptophan in the world. Tryptophan is the precursor to the neurotransmitter serotonin, which is the mood neurotransmitter, but it's also the precursor to melatonin, and melatonin is what helps you sleep. So if you take the chlorella before you go to bed, you'll have a better sleep. So that's why we suggest the energy bits in the morning, throughout the day, and definitely before a workout, and take the chlorella after a workout, and definitely at night.
So you mentioned that you can take it in instead of a meal. So how many calories is in it if it is useful as a meal replacement?
Yeah, it's only 1 calorie per tab, and in fact, it's even less than 1 calorie. So a serving of 30 is 25 calories, and I tell people, where else can you be full for 25 calories for a couple of hours? And I used to speak at triathlon clubs, and they used to just, almost throw darts at me because they said, we don't believe, how can we possibly get energy from something that only has 1 calorie? So, I had to do a deep dive on all the nutrients that are contributing to helping you have energy. And so then I would walk them through all the points, which I've already discussed most of them here.
So sorry, just a quick question. So it's 1 calorie per tablet or 1 calorie per 30 tablet? Like
1 calorie per tablet.
Got it.
Slightly less than 1 because a serving of 30 tablets has 25 calories. So
Got
it's
and 5 grams of protein, you said?
Correct, per serving of 30.
For the 30.
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah, so it's not really a meal replacement. Although you could, if you wanted someone to skip a meal, I would, if they're trying to skip a meal, but you wouldn't actually. It's not technically a meal replacement.
Well, yes, it is, because you're not hungry for a couple hours. A meal fortifies your body with nutrients and satisfies your hunger. This fortifies your body with nutrients and satisfies your hunger. So,
but calories to provide energy, especially when you mention like an athlete. I come from a space where I help people I try to get people to use food as fuel and not to prevent the habit of overeating or undereating and stop looking at food as the enemy. So I don't like to encourage people to skip meals intentionally. Right.
No, and we don't either. But if you're stuck in traffic or you're late at the office and you're racing to your workout and you're tired and you're hungry, but if you eat something too close to your workout, you're going to have stomach distress, and then your workout's going to be shot. So you can have a snack. There you go. It's a snack. It's a really handy snack that will never cause you stomach distress and doesn't require any cooking or cleaning, and it gives you all the nutrients and boosts.
Cooking.
Yeah, right. I know, yeah.
All right, yeah. So the website is, if you tell us just one more time.
Yeah, ynbsp.com.
ynbsp.com. And where can we find you?
At ynbsp.com.
Yeah. Do you have any social media that you like to use?
Oh, well, we're very active on Instagram, so it's ynbsp. Facebook is ynbsp. Twitter is ynbsp. So,
right.
Yeah, we've been on there for a while, so we got all our handles that we wanted. So and we love communicating with people on all of our social media. We'd love to have people your community join us there, and we're tiny, but we're mighty. Just like algae, tiny but mighty.
Yes, and once if you guys are big now, wait till we destroy the world and we need a good source of algae so that we all don't starve. It's going to be Soylent Green with a side of algae.
Don't do that. Now, Soylent is not food. Algae is food. So please do not. I can't believe they exist. But hey, they didn't get approved in Canada, so because they didn't.
I was referencing the old movie.
Oh yeah. Well,
but they're both green, right? They both provide you with enough greens, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a new product called Solium. That's where they got their name from, and it's scary. It's very scary to me. This is the real deal. This is real food. This is a crop, so you can't go wrong with it. At least not ours. But yes, come and visit us, hang out, and say hi, and ask us your questions, and don't forget to use your ymWits 20% discount. It all works. We're also available on Amazon. Great. So you can buy single servings, buy bags, boxes, whatever you want on Amazon. So that might be a great way for your community to try it out, because if they get free shipping if they Prime, and you can buy a couple servings to try it out and see if you like it, and then before going in deep. So we really want people to be happy with the product. So that's probably the best route to go for now, I would suggest.
Nice. All right, Catherine. Well, thank you so much. We always like to hear about new products and new research and everything, and you're very passionate about what you do, and we really like to see that.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I got another 20 years ahead of me to do this, so I got to pace myself. Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me
Catherine.
Be on. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Great, and enjoy the coming springtime in Boston.
Yeah, when it eventually gets here, right?
All righty. Well, have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
So first off, we get it. When you're trying to sell a product, you're going to say and almost do anything to make it as marketable as possible. With that being said, we all felt that there were a lot of claims that Catherine made, and we're not saying that they are true or untrue. Well, some of them we believe to be untrue, but certainly many of the things that you said could be very valid, and perhaps algae could be a superfood. And there is a lot of evidence that shows that algae can be very effective and can be very helpful for people. But I think that the issues that we ran into were sort of these big claims. Like we had an issue with the lactic acid. That was one. I know Tony had a little bit of an issue with the concept of meal replacement when something has very few calories. I think Ryan had a little bit of an issue with sort of the studies and not being.
I get it. That you're, and I'm sure Tony, you can speak a lot more to this than I can, because you're of all of us, you're the closest to a scientist, with your background and with what you've gone through. So, but I think I get it when you're trying to sell something, you're going to try to promote it, but I feel like it's a bit disingenuous if you throw too much out without backing individual things up. So it's kind of like if you make a lot of claims at once, it was like, I remember all of us kind of looking at each other at different points, because it's like, this is too much stuff to talk about. And so that, it's like I forget the name of in philosophy, but basically it's like you're making an argument. You're just throwing so many things out there that
it's hard to kind of be combative or to even kind of come up with a point, because there were so many different points and they were all over the place.
And I think that's, that was the issue. Kind of part of the issue that I had is, just too much. It's too good. And let's take it back a second and maybe give us some information. I think the other issue I have is if you make the claim that you're a scientist.
Yeah, I was led to believe that.
And again, I don't want to talk too much bad about her, but
sure. Yeah,
especially after she's done with saying. But if you say you're a chief scientific officer, you can't well, okay, what's your scientific background? Reading a lot of studies doesn't mean anything, because if you don't know how to read studies, then what does it matter? So if you don't have a background, if you don't have something to fall back on to say this is why, it's tough to make that claim. But B, let's grant that. I grant that she has studied everything there is about algae, and she is the authority on algae. You can't then pull back and say, well, I'm not a scientist, so I don't have to answer that question. So that's where I feel like it's being disingenuous. Like, if you're going to say you're a scientist and you're the leading expert on this and you know everything, great, that's awesome. I'll even grant you that, without a scientific background. But don't pull back when pressured and say, oh, I'm not a scientist, so I don't have to answer. That to me is just disingenuous. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Tony.
No, I mean, and just to, even forgetting about the science or not, we've talked about it over and over again. There's never one cure-all. There's never a magic pill or potion. And if someone does decide to go and purchase this, do not stop taking your medications and the current supplements that you're taking. Like, go over anything with your doctor first before making steps.
Yep.
Going forward.
Absolutely. She mentioned that you can take it in place of vitamins and minerals and meals even. And I think that, to do that without consulting a professional would probably not be the best choice.
That is under your care, that knows you on an individual level. Because we all know at the end of the day, even the recommendations we give on the ymWits, they're general. When you're talking about taking a supplement, because that's what it is, it's a supplement. You're not taking the food, you're taking a supplement, and you need to consult a doctor before doing so, especially if you have a medical condition or you're taking other medications or supplements.
So we know that there are some positives for algae. There actually is good stuff coming out about it. Tony, what have you heard about it? And what would, based on your knowledge, and I know it's a little bit limited, but what would you recommend with taking algae and sort of how to do it?
Well, because it's kind of new in the studies, like I don't know, like I said, I don't know what studies she's read. From what I've read, there's not enough studies. That's what I've read personally.
100,000.
And so there's not enough studies to make the claim that it's beneficial. However, it can be good for someone because it is high in omega-3s, which is true, which helps for inflammation. And it can benefit someone, especially if they are vegan or vegetarian, because they're not eating, or just maybe someone that doesn't like seafood or fish, because all the benefits that she was claiming, you can get those same exact benefits from having your 2 to 3 servings of fish per week, which is about the size of your palm. If you're eating 2 to 3 servings of fish per week, you're going to get those benefits. As for the energy part of it, I don't see how that would be different than like having caffeine before a workout to spike your energy, but from a nutrition benefit, also to the toxic, like the fact that
toxins. Oof.
Well, no, there's metals in algae that comes from it's coming from the ocean, and if it's not going through that process, like at least it does seem like that product is a safer product, because getting any other supplement off the shelf, we really don't know if it's going to have those harmful metals. And if you are pregnant, which I also want to stress, do not take this. If you're pregnant, especially this is not for a pregnant person, because that's where there's that potential to happen. But I mean, she talked about so much stuff. Like, I feel like we need to do an episode on like the pH in the body and alkalinity and like all these claims that I was just like, what? Stop.
Yeah. So I mean, just as you guys, if you listen to us enough, you got to do your research. Don't take anybody's claims, even us. If we ever tell you something that sounds too good to be true,
we might just do that though, to test you. We might test you.
When we have something to sell, that no. But even if I was selling a product, I'm going to try to be as honest as possible, because I feel like I have my integrity and to fall back on. And so, if we ever. Yeah, it's like if we had some nutritional product, we would get somebody who is an expert in that field to really be our, the point person for that, and B, we'd want to be as honest as possible about the benefits. So if anything sounds too good to be true, do your research, and it might be.
Yeah, and also just to say, the term supplement is to supplement the diet. It is never, ever, ever to take place of a healthy diet. Yeah. So I just wish there was a little bit more of that honesty there, knowing that I could make if I told someone to only eat broccoli, broccoli is a powerful food, but you're going to be deficient in other things, so you can't expect.
You're also going to fart a lot too.
Like, so that's the other part that, you know, with any supplement, it's to supplement the diet. It's to still, you know, it's not to replace your greens. Although you might not like them, I would encourage you to try to eat them and find new ways to incorporate them, and you know, So
well, and you know what I always say, right?
I'm not the dietitian, but in no world is a 30-calorie snack a meal,
or even really a snack. I wouldn't even constitute it as a snack. That's like having a gummy bear.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not anything. It's just like it's just a gummy bear. Like I don't.
So I was like, okay, appetite suppressant. Okay, maybe if it does do that, but in no world is that a snack or a meal or replacing anything.
And I don't think you should be intentionally trying to. I mean, but that's just my way of counseling and helping people. Is I believe in mindful eating, and I don't believe we should be messing up with our metabolism and suppressing it. I think we need to learn how to eat when we're hungry and stop when we're full and pay attention. But when I guess her argument was when you're in like a time crunch, you know, it can be appropriate, but so can like you could just I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to go on.
I think we'll end it at that. As you know, again, all the stuff is in the show notes. If you want to try it out, it does sound, you know, as Tony said, it sounds like the product is fine.
The product is fine. It's just I don't use it as a meal replacement or a meal supplement or you know, just you know, I don't know, like. And take the dosage. Don't overdo it. Sometimes people hear all these claims and then they want to overdo their dosage. Like, stick to the dosage. If you want to incorporate it in your diet, it'll probably be fine. Once again, talk to a physician or, you know, your doctor before doing so. And make sure also, too, that not only if you don't just stop taking the medications to replace it, but sometimes things like this can have interactions with your current medication, so it might not be good, and I wouldn't recommend you stop taking your heart medication for something like this. You know, so take, you know what I mean? Like, it might not be for you, so just triple check before you start it.
And Catherine was nice enough to put a code, so if you do want to try it out, you know, you can use the ymWits code, and you'll get a 20% discount.
Cool. All right. Well, that is it. All the stuff is at thegymwits.com. I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, reminding you yet again. You guys know already.
No, you gotta say it. Now, the one time I want you to say it.
All right.
No, you gotta say
Truth does not sell.
And I'm Tips with Tony, your dietitian, reminding you, or helping you get healthy every bite at a time.
Yes.
Right. And
not every pill at a time.
That was the word.
And we are
the ymWits.